It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US, make studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You Like.
It is the Pete Sousa Show, and we are ready to rock and roll. Celebrating the Army-Navy game today. Talking about some breaking news. A story that continues to develop. Obviously, Sherrone Moore. Baylor. Looks like they have a new defensive coordinator who we know a little bit. I know a little bit. We'll get to that, too, shortly. We are presented by Slovacics. I cannot thank Sikora Family Ford enough for being a part of this ride. Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. See him right here. Cheers. And I can tell you, I would say, I mean, Sherrone Moore definitely needs more help than Daniel Stark, right? And I'm not trying to be silly about this, but Daniel Stark is one of our big-time sponsors. And I would say if somebody needs Daniel Stark, it is Sherrone Moore or somebody who needs attorneys' help and and all kinds of stuff. And, ultimately you start off with, a kind of a quip, right? Because that is one of our funnier segments, but you kind of move into a really, and Scotty's got it up there. It's just a really sad story. It's the story. So I found out about it yesterday afternoon, and then I went for like a jog around Cameron Park, and I'm old, so I jog for the first part and walk for the second. And when I was walking, I really started to take in. It's actually not true. I actually walked towards like the second half of the jog part. So just keeping things honest here. But as I was walking, I was like, let me like dig into this Sherrone Moore thing. It's Sherrone or Sherrone, Scotty? Sherrone. So Scotty, anything on that? He doesn't know. Okay. It's Sherrone Moore. I keep saying Sherrone because of Sherrone Wright, the basketball player. So it is, well, let me just say, as I consumed all this information, first, this is one of those stories where I, of course, saw Dan Wetzel, ESPN reporter based out of Michigan. He was the first actual legit reporter I heard report on the story on Paul Feinbaum's show. You know what surprised me about Feinbaum, by the way? Like a Josh Pate, this is interesting now. And this lets you know who's working the phones and who's talking to people. Josh Pate, when he got on and did a live to discuss this, he was like, I've known about this for a while. And it's not necessarily like, oh, now you tell us, but it just shows like, hey, you can't report something that's not totally credible. This is such a huge deal. So, of course, he couldn't share it up until last night when it bubbles up. But and Dan Patrick said this morning he had heard a rumor. Adam Schefter had said he'd heard a rumor. Feinbaum was like totally blown away, which I was like, that's interesting. He had no clue. So it makes me wonder if he's just over there taking calls and just spitting fire on First Take now. I was like, that's interesting.
Screaming about Group of 5 schools.
Yeah, screaming about Group of 5 schools. Exactly. It's like maybe he doesn't talk to anybody outside of the SEC. I don't know, but I did find that interesting, and that was a bit of a chink in his armor. So, but the story made me so sad to the point where I started to get angry because I think that's like fear-based for me, because I think I can understand how that happens to somebody. My first question to myself when something like this happens is like, could this happen to me? Would I be, because I think I'm dumb enough to do just about anything. But I like to think I have like things in my life, like standards and morals and friends, and like, ever since I got sober, right? I've talked about that ad nauseum, but that's a huge thread of this story for me. Like, I have had enough people in my life that have almost served as like human guardrails because I talk to them all the time, that I would like to think I wouldn't get into a situation like this. But as I answered to myself, when I truly asked myself that question, I have never been the head coach at Michigan, right? I don't know what it's like to hold a position of such massive power, right? Again, maybe I'm, as a friend of mine told me this morning, I'm definitely selling myself short. Like I would not do something like that, but I always like, look, I just do not judge. I don't, right? And then the fallout, just the details, right? Michigan reports late yesterday afternoon that he was being fired with cause, an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. And they conducted an investigation going weeks back. This is according to Dan Wetzel at ESPN, but they had no credible evidence to move forward. And then over the last 24 to 36 hours, evidence surfaced that, left the school with irrefutable evidence to fire him for cause. As far as like a background, and I think it is interesting, like, who is Sherrone Moore? Because I knew him as the Michigan assistant, but I also love when I get to call a game and I get to dive into who these people are. He just had another child this summer. He's got 3 daughters, I guess 2 twins that are one. There are 2 because there's twins. And, obviously he's married. And after he was detained, after he was notified, he was let go. Apparently he went over to the the place, went over to where the woman he was having the affair with lived. And this is in Saline. I know this a little bit because that's like it's 2 miles from Ann Arbor, like where Michigan Stadium is. So it's right up the road. And I looked at it on Google Maps this morning. It looked like a nice like apartment complex almost, where there were like, a bunch of like let's say like a really nice Chipotle on the bottom and other retail stores, and you got apartments up top. So it sounds like he went to that location, forced his way in, and police were called for reports of an alleged assault. At that point, he was detained and then turned over to police in Pittsfield, because Pittsfield those are the police that, it's in like this Ouachita County or something. I'm saying it wrong, but that county, Ann Arbor's in that county, right? So, I mean, 4 hours, and this guy ruined his life certainly in the immediate future, right? I mean, like, he is still in jail right now, and they're expecting him to appear in front of a judge. They don't know if that'll be like on Zoom or if that appearance will be in person. But I heard this reporter from Michigan, I think he was an AP guy or maybe a local newspaper guy there, but he was on Dan Patrick. Tony Garcia was his name, and he was standing at the courthouse talking to Dan. So, like, this story is still developing. The bottom line is Michigan has to find a coach, and we'll talk about that later in the show, because I have some opinions on that and some feeling on that. It's just so like where we are where college football is as a sport. Like, it's a little, and I think this is another thing that sort of frustrated me last night. Like, Kalen DeBoer is in the college football playoff, and his name is being kicked around as going to Michigan. Now, I know he coached at Eastern Michigan, was the head coach there, had great success, right? And then he's a proven winner, right, at Washington and everything he did there. But it's like, he's got a job at one of the best jobs you could have in college football, but he would leave that to go to Michigan. So I'm like, okay, that was a destination job, I thought, and maybe it will be. Maybe this is all scuttlebutt, but this seems to have some real horsepower behind it. Then you look at, like, people this morning were talking about Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell just took the job at Penn State. Like, but now he would go to Michigan. And I don't know, maybe this has been going on forever, or maybe I'm just old and I'm getting like a little crusty, but it's like the lack of like any kind of commitment to any of these institutions or situations. And I get it. Like, these guys are eventually going to get fired, but I just feel like the way the players move and the way the coaches move, it is what it is, right? You got freedom of movement. It's the United States of America. There's collective bargaining and contracts and legal stuff that is, guys have to pay penalties if they leave early, or maybe somebody else has to buy them out. But at the end of the day, like, they're doing what they're, I guess, free to do under the law. But it like puts a sour taste in my mouth as a guy who likes the sport. And it goes back to what Heather Dinich said earlier this week, ESPN reporter, like, people may start to lose, like, there is like a little bit of like an undercurrent here where people are starting to lose interest in this a little bit because of all this stuff, like just how transactional it's becoming. Okay, so that's out of the way. I'm sure that's just me being old. But more on Sherrone Moore. High school, grows up in Kansas, right? Went to a junior college in Kansas. Then he went to play for Bob Stooks at Oklahoma. He was a guard there in 2007. Same staff as like Brett Venables. He was there for 2006, 2007. Started 14 games at guard. Gets a job at Louisville as a grad assistant in 2009. Steve Cragthorpe gets fired. But he stays on staff, and Charlie Strong actually gives him a full-time job as a tight ends coach and stays there for 6 years. 2014, or 5 years, he goes to Eastern Michigan, coaches for Dan Enos, and then Enos gets fired, and the same thing happens. He's retained by the new staff, which I think says something about this dude, right? Like, whether he's a great recruiter or just an overall great guy, what he did wasn't, obviously, I mean, again, we don't have, this is all alleged, but like, that's not a real cool thing to do, like the affair and all that stuff, and the stuff and the aftermath. But, clearly he was forging some strong relationships, and people really thought a lot of him, obviously. So he's at Eastern Michigan for a while. He's their tight ends coach. Then he gets the job at Michigan working for Harbaugh. He goes to Michigan as a tight ends coach, does that job for about 3 years from 2018 to 2021. And then in 2021, he's named offensive coordinator and an O-line coach. He's co-offensive coordinator. Where, by the way, and I wasn't aware of this till this morning, he called the plays during their 2023 season when they won the national title. Like, he's the play caller, and also his offensive line. And we know this award just because we know college sports. And funny, like 2 years ago, they were talking about Baylor's offensive line being so good. But the Joe Moore Award is for the best offensive line in the country. Michigan won that twice under Sherrone Moore. Their O-line did. So he gets the job, right, with all the stuff with Harbaugh and the suspensions, and he's named head coach officially in 2024. And in 2 seasons, he's 16-8. This last year, it's 9-3. And, they lost a lot of games, or they won a lot of games by smaller margins than they probably should have. Like Purdue, Northwestern, they lost to Oklahoma early in the season. The Purdue and Northwestern games were just really close, closer than they should have been. And then they lose to Ohio State. But then you're 9-3 playing in the Big Ten. Like, that's a hell of a job. I mean, of course you want a little more, but Michigan, and if you think about it, they have been one of the more thoughtful, less hyperbolic institutions in the world of college sports. Like, Harbaugh took him like 6 years. This is the shortest tenure ever of a Michigan coach. And, that school, I'm never going to say there's less pressure, but because their athletic department is so dynamic and they're so good, they'll win a national championship in basketball. They'll compete for a national championship all across Olympic sports just about every year. And there's just not as much. It's hard to say that we undersell Michigan football, but you get what I mean. Like, it's just not as crazy as like in Alabama, right? Where it's like, people are at your house if you lose like 1 or 2 conference games. It's a good school, and I think they're a little more thoughtful and a little more patient. But there's obviously, there's no opportunity for patience in a situation like this if you're Michigan. And the fact that like this has been going on for such a long time, apparently, like, this really started to gain some traction, like, again, like the underbelly of it, right around like in the fall, and it's such a bummer of a situation. And to think that, by the way, locally here in the Big 12, and in Central Texas, like this is weird to talk about this now, but from a football perspective, like there could be fallout for teams in the Big 12. You can look no further than Baylor. Right? Who was the 5-star that flipped, Scotty, to Michigan from Baylor?
4-star Jamarian Vincent.
Jamarian Vincent flipped right on signing day, pretty much. Hey, the guy went to Conley High School, like right up the road from Baylor. Does he go back to Baylor? I have no idea. But a lot of times Michigan is such a powerhouse. When you're going to Michigan, you're going because it's Michigan. But apparently, Sherrone Moore was doing something right. And, the human condition is an MFer, dude. It just is. And we talk about it on this show because of my experiences, like through sobriety. And I know what it's like to like fall apart and hit a bottom. We saw it with Mac Rhodes, and like the ripple effect is like crazy because, yesterday they've been referring to the College Football Playoff Committee as an absolute clown show. Right. I've heard a couple people use that term, which is like, okay, whatever. It's a little much. But when you think about the blueprint for that College Football Playoff Committee was laid out by the chair, Mac Rhodes, right? Well, Mac has his own personal transgressions that we're very familiar with here in Texas. And, he has to step away because of all kinds of stuff. And like the rumors are out of control, whether it was this or that, but it was the human condition that got him. And so Mac is out. They have to replace him with Hunter Yurachek. Right away, it seemed like they were swimming upstream after that happened. And then, you get this, what people feel like is a weak committee, but like it starts with Mac Rhodes and all that stuff. And now here we go, this thing with Sherrone Moore, which obviously culminated with a very dark scene at this woman's apartment where he had a knife. This is all reported by police now, police report. He had a knife, threatened to kill the woman and himself. This guy could get charged with attempted murder. Like, that's how being, having been I was not ever like a hardcore journalist, but I did the morning news. And, when somebody charges into somebody's house with a knife and says they're going to kill them and themselves, that usually results in an attempted murder charge. So, like, this is just the ugliest of ugly situations. And you think about the flaws that we have as humans, it's very, very real. And this is just like it's a jarring deal. And I think all the big outlets did a really nice job this morning with this. Just kind of like, Mike Greenberg made it very clear. Like, he was like, there is so much out there and that we're just not that show. We're not going to get into all that. And we're going to learn more and more. I made the mistake of getting on Twitter and, just Googling Sherrone Moore's name. And there's like, other women stepping forward saying he slid in their DMs. Apparently, this woman was an administrative or executive assistant. Sounds like she was his assistant. So that is like, that's where this becomes more than an affair too. It becomes like totally egregious. So that's the personal side of this. Anything develops, we'll get back with you on that, right? Like, we'll continue to tell you what's going on with this story, but it's ugly. So we turn the page, right? We turn the page from an ugly situation to a celebration. And that's hard to do, but it's pretty easy when you got a couple guys who played for Army and Navy that are going to chat with us ahead of the Army-Navy game. The 126th meeting between Army and Navy coming up this weekend at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. Friend of the show, Gary Danielson, will be on the call with Brad Nessler. We will be back with two guys who know way more about this rivalry and the celebration that is Army-Navy coming up after the break. The Pete Sousa Show is presented by Slovakia.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
Welcome back to the Pete Sousa Show. This is a very special segment coming up here. Alejandro Villanueva and Bob Kaburski know a little bit about the Army-Navy game and serving the red, white, and blue. The 126th meeting between Army and Navy has taken place this weekend at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Navy at 9-2, Army at 6-5. This, by the way, as we bring these gentlemen on right now, there they are. Bob, the captain. What's going on, fellas?
Pete, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. And this is for the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. The stakes are high. Captain Villanueva, let's start with you. Going into a game like this, how much do you get like those butterflies and that excitement this time of year when you come up on this special game, Army-Navy?
Well, I think it's very difficult to explain to the average college fan just the amount of pressure that goes into beating Navy every single year because the entire academy is almost made to foster this rivalry. So that from the moment you get in, it's beat Navy, beat Navy, beat Navy. And I know it's the same thing at the Naval Academy. It's beat Army, beat Army, beat Army. And so you spend the entire year thinking to yourself, if I don't beat Navy, it's going to be a failure of a season. So regardless of the records, that last game, the beating the Navy is so special and so important to the cadets because it stays with them for the rest of their careers. They'll count to themselves how many years they beat Navy. Basically, no other games up until this point really matter for the Army football program right now.
Hey, Bob, I want to go over to you. You grew up outside of Philadelphia. You went to Ridley. And the reason I bring that up, not only is because I'm from Philly, so I went to Archbishop Carroll, so tip of the cap to you there, aside from, your service. But in the Northeast, for me, that was like a huge college football game. We didn't have a college football team, really. We had Temple, but, but that game really captured me as a young man. I wanted to play at Navy. I wasn't good enough, so I had to go to Richmond. But I ended up falling in love with that rivalry, I think partially because of the proximity to where I lived. Did that have anything to do with sort of a want and a need and a movement to go to Navy and to serve maybe that region of the country? It's special there.
Yeah, I think all of those apply, Pete, for sure. In terms of the lore of the game here in the Philadelphia area, being a Delaware County native myself, my interest actually came at an earlier age, and it's a story I tell all the time, and it actually revolves around Roger Staubach. And I used to watch the Dallas Cowboys. Alejandro, you're a bit younger than me, but in the 70s, and see Roger the Dodger. And I actually bought a book about the Naval Academy when I was not even 10. And that's where my interest came. My first actually participation in an Army-Navy game was as a recruit, as senior at Ridley High School, in 1988. in Veterans Stadium where they played at the time. Was my first experience, and I was hooked. Hook, line, and sinker. It's where I wanted to go. I wanted to serve my country, and oh, by the way, get a place to, chance to play football. And then the cream of the crop, though, is Army Navy. And having been in a Super Bowl environment, in the past as a professional athlete, I can tell you that the butterflies were much more prevalent for me, at least with Army Navy, in a college setting. So, what a wonderful experience, and something that players like us get to look back on with great fondness. And I look forward to this game and this week, and this day, like it's Christmas, my birthday, Easter, Thanksgiving, all wrapped into one, where you get to see the most wonderful people in the world that you've ever been able to be around. So really looking forward to this one.
Alejandro, I would like to ask you a question about, and this also applies to you, Bob. So we'll get back to you on this. First of all, I don't want to bury the lead. Well, the lead is that you guys both served America, and we're talking about the Army Navy game. Alejandro, you a captain in Army. Bob, your affiliation with Navy, being an ensign there. I want to ask Alejandro about, you play for the Steelers, but in between, you finishing up your career at Navy, you showed 3 tours of duty in Afghanistan. You are an airborne ranger, and then you go to the NFL. How did your service for America, following your career at Army, prepare you for the NFL? Or was it like vice versa? Did football help you? Just what's the thread there?
I get asked that question all the time, and it seems very romantic to be able to make that connection between the two. How to being an airborne ranger prepare you for, the NFL. But unfortunately I don't think I think you better prepare by running 40s and benching 225, and not rucking 20, 30 miles in the middle of the night with no food and no sleep. I do think that football does help a lot in the military, in the sense that you learn how to lead, and you learn how to be around men. So if you've ever been in a locker room, there's a lot of friction in locker rooms. There's a lot of challenges in locker rooms. There's a lot of speeches that coaches have to make to rally the troops. And so you just start developing a lot of social skills that you might not otherwise have if you spend all day in a lab, like a little lab rat, and you barely have any interaction with people that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, people that come from different parts of the country. So football forces you to face your teammates. And I think once you go into the military, that's all you're going to be facing. You're going to be facing the members of your company, your platoon. And so football does have a lot of social skills. And, ultimately, obviously, in football, you cherish and you look forward to people when they're down. Everybody knows that when you're playing amazing and everything's working out, you're not really measuring the value of a player. When you're down, when you're struggling, that's when you truly see the character of somebody. So I don't think that the military prepares you for the NFL. Otherwise, all the NFL players would be veterans. But I do think that the football has amazing values that are admirable, and that's the reason why both academies really love football. Stanford, Harvard, they love swimming because swimmers are just psychopaths that have incredible discipline. But at the academies, you're managing people, and I do think that football does have that connection to leadership.
Yeah, Bob, you were a leader. You were a union rep in the NFL, and I have to imagine some of that spawned from your, the fact that your time at the Naval Academy. I mean, and the way you carried yourself in the locker room. Both you guys playing, by the way, for the 2 of the premier organizations in the NFL. Great careers. Alejandro with the Steelers, Bob, you with the Packers. How did you find yourself, Bob, using the perspective you had or were granted during your time serving America, and now you're on the football field in the trenches? Can you describe a little bit the perspective that you get from being a player at a service academy and then serving the country when you take the field in the NFL?
Yeah, and I love what Alejandro said about, the military and the NFL and sort of football and, translation. And the immediate thing I thought of when you asked that question, Pete, was, the military is the ultimate team sport. Alejandro knows it from a combat perspective, not a circumstance that I, was able to, replicate in my military career. Not quite as long on active duty either, but the ultimate team sport. And I can tell, Alejandro and I have never met. I feel like we have speed of trust with service academy people, Army, Navy alike. I could tell he is intelligent. He's conversant. He's engaging. He's a, can be an exciting, person to listen to and talk to. And those are exactly some of the intangible traits that translate well in a team environment. And for me, it was a great experience coming, from the Naval Academy. My first experience in Green Bay was going to post-tramp mini camp in a uniform in April of my senior year, and then going back to the Green Bay, in a uniform, coming off of active duty, and the way I was treated was different than a rookie. Number one, I was elected by my teammates to be a union representative for 3 years in Green Bay. You can't do it, by the way, your first year as a rookie. You're not allowed to be a rep, but um, I think they look up to members of the military, and this is not specific to me. There's a different way that people think about you, a different, expectation that they have of you in terms of how you conduct yourself. And you would certainly think, if you're leading an NFL organization or any team, and I said, the military, the ultimate team sport, you would think you want to line your locker room with guys like that, that they got your back. They're doing things morally, ethically. They're doing that, and they're actually, pervading, their other teammates and rubbing off on them, right? And locker room guys. And for me, my career, had some starts as a player, but was a backup defensive lineman. Alejandro, starting, left tackle. But being a locker room guy was an important part of what I could bring to my role on the team, because it wasn't as a marquee player, right? I wasn't Reggie White, who had the privilege of playing next to, but that was really important. So I loved every aspect of that, and representing the Naval Academy, representing the Navy, representing the military in our nation, tremendously important for me. Personally, I'm sure Alejandro can say the same.
It's important for me to even have you guys in this space with me today, because that's how highly I think of you guys and folks who serve America. Alejandro, what's something about this rivalry that only guys who play for Army and Navy are familiar with? Like something that would surprise the average person?
The fact that I am the worst person in the entire world to ask about rivalries. I grew up in a naval base. I grew up in Rota Naval Station. I love history. History is one of my biggest passions, and I do think that as an American, as an average American, we should root to have the strongest Navy ever. Always, the Navy should always be our priority and our measuring stick of who we are as a nation. When we say, how are we doing militarily, we should be asking how many ships we're building. What do our ships look like? For me, any game of football is a fun game of football. I love the game of football above, loyalties to one academy or the other. Matter of fact, I wanted to become a naval officer, but I was colorblind, and then I had to go to Army. But for me, the rivalries in football are, it's just any game is fun. You go out there, you want to see a good game. You want to see a game that is tight towards the end, that has the elements of a Greek tragedy with the last minute touchdown, the last minute field goal. And I think that because Army and Navy know each other so well, it's almost like playing a divisional game in the NFL, where that the triple option is not going to surprise anybody at Army. It's not going to surprise the relentless run of the game, the big play action. So there are no surprises. The cadets of the academy understand this Mahan doctrine of geopolitics and the way that we fit in. Obviously, if the Army has intrinsic leadership, abilities that we have to remain in terms of honors. We all have kind of the same measuring stick of who we have to become as officers. But the game itself is something that you hope that it becomes a big upset, and it has all the elements of the pageantry that you hope from Ohio State, Michigan, or any other Steelers, Ravens, or whatever you might be.
It's so cool. It's one of the only games really that still is like a standalone game. And as far as like you mentioned the option, I had a game this year where I had USF, and the week before they lost to Navy because, I mean, USF had a great defense. They have a great defense, but I mean, their coordinators talked about it. Like, we could not stop. You can plan that all week long and run it all day long. But once they come out, it's like your guys are always like jerking around. It's just so interesting that that is still run, and that's still the blueprint. Bob, I want to ask you a little bit about a moment you remember in your career at Navy, playing in the Army-Navy game. Like, what sticks out to you the most, something you'll never forget on the field or around a particular game?
I think, I was thinking about this when Alejandro was talking a little bit, and, everyone knows that, we're brothers forever, in the service, right? In the context of this game, it's Army and Navy. But for that day, we're enemies. And I think what sticks out with me the most is, and you talked about like the option and there's schemes and maybe there's a trick play. And of course, someone's going to make a big play or several big plays. But what it really comes down to with Army and Navy, and you can, you talk about throwing the records out. I mean, this is the series where you throw the records out. So it's really the grit. And I mean, I can honestly sit here and tell you, I think the game's a little bit different today, from a rules standpoint, of course, but I wanted to knock the hell out of, my Army counterpart just enough so that if he didn't come back and play in the game the rest of the day, I was happy with that. I didn't want to injure anybody. I didn't want anything permanent, but I really wanted to knock the snot out of him. And that would have been okay if they had to go over and, take a breather and get some water. But it's that it is a struggle. It is a fight in the trenches. Alejandro, I think you were a tight end when you were at West Point and converted.
Wide receiver. I was a wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah.
That's crazy. I read that. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. But I mean, in the trenches, I can tell you there was nothing like it. The hitting, the intensity. And that's why, it's one of the very favorite sporting events that I've ever gotten, to be a part of, not only, as a fan at one point, but as a player and involved. And that is a very, very, very hard fought win when you come out of Army Navy on a Saturday in December versus the other games you play. It's not that you don't want to have the intensity, but there's an it factor there that's just ingrained in you, imbued in you, developed in you throughout your career at the academy.
Yeah, Bob, you tapped into something real cool. Alejandro, you were part of a service family, and you lived all over the globe. In Belgium, you were playing rugby, and then you started to play football. And then I read something where you were a little confused with the rules, and you were hitting somebody late. I read a story about that because you thought it was still rugby and the play was still going on. Then you're a wide receiver, a D lineman, and a left tackle, I think, all at Navy or Army, excuse me. Talk to me about the development of you as a football player and learning the game, right? And obviously being so well-versed, you played so many different positions.
Yeah, of course. So I would say that one of the things that really helped me was the fact that, as a European, I played a lot of soccer. And I think that soccer gives you mobility and spatial awareness that you might not otherwise have in American sports, because a lot of them are, basketball is the only one that's continuous flow. But outside of basketball, everything kind of stops. Everything is a little bit robotic. My kids are playing baseball and football now, and everything kind of stops and you reassess. But rugby and soccer, you're continuously flowing. So I always felt that I was a little bit like a German Shepherd. I was a little bit good at everything, and I could do, maybe things that in the world of sports that my counterparts, that I've grown up just playing American football, were not able to do. But I did recognize one variable, and that is I could not play without knowing the snap count, meaning I was not explosive enough to play D-line. So they tried to put me at D-line, when I was at Army. They tried to put me at D-line when I was with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I always sensed that I was reacting a little bit. And when you play defense, the one attribute to play in the defensive line is you have to snap out and you have to be extremely explosive right off the bat. So I wasn't like that. I was more of a thinker. I was more of a somebody who had to envision the play and analyze and overthink everything. And so naturally, I ended up playing offensive tackle. But I would have to say that once you catch the ball in a football game on a fade route, football is over. Football, like you just feel like you're a second class citizen on the football field because there's nothing cooler than scoring a touchdown, than tracking the ball, putting outside shoulder. That is what we play now at tailgates. You know, we don't go out to a tailgate and we do one-on-ones. You know, we go out to a tailgate and we toss the pigskin around. And so I thought that you know, if I could go back all the way to the beginning, to my first day at West Point, I would have said, don't put me at anything that doesn't get the ability to get a touchdown, because that is truly the coolest feeling in football.
I love it. All right, a couple more things with you guys. I want to tap into the leadership aspect again. Bob, you know, you mentioned you started sometimes you were a backup. You had a great career with the Packers. You played in the Super Bowl. Was there ever a moment where the team, and outside of being a union rep, maybe it was motivation, maybe it was a lesson needed to be learned, where your team turned to you knowing that your time as, you know, at the Naval Academy and your service afterwards, that obviously that was special and that was something they could learn from? Did they ever have a moment where they were like, hey, like, Bob, what do you think about this? Like, with your experience, like, can you please shed some light on this and give us direction?
Mine, you know, yes, Pete. Maybe not in a glorified sense that I'd love to be able to tell you, you know, this tremendous story of, you know, leadership. But I think, you know, probably two aspects to answer your question. One is just being, you know, a consummate leader, and that's, you know, whether it's in drills. I wasn't the best athlete on the defensive line in Green Bay or anywhere for that matter. But you know, I'm first up. I'm going through the bags, right? I'm going full speed, and maybe somebody else isn't. You know, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going home on time. I'm making sure that my teammate next to me, you know, maybe they're in a situation where, you know, they need a little bit of help. So I'm doing that. So I think that's a big part of leadership. It's leading by example. You hear that all the time. Sounds like a cliche thing, but it's real. The second aspect was more around sort of the personal side. So outside of, like, you know, hey, X's and O's, you know, football playing in the game, around the personal side. And, you know, one of the things that I developed when I was in the NFL via an internship first, and then I actually went to work at Morgan Stanley as a financial advisor, but was from people coming to me and talking about off the field um, finances, issues, things like that, where there's another opportunity to be a leader in a different way. Not so much of a rah-rah, you know, let me give the pregame speech. You know, for us, Alejandro probably had a similar experience. In our room, in our defense, you know, was Reggie White, was Brett Favre, who was our quarterback for my 4 years there in Green Bay. So more, you know, that leading by example aspect, and then that, hey, I need to talk to you about something here on the side personally, and drawing from that experience that you get as a leader in the military.
But so you would see something and say something, like, you know, you have the metal to share with someone. It's, you see it as an opportunity, right? Like, I would imagine that would come from your experience.
It does. And I mean, just really being honest with people. A lot of times it's uncomfortable when you tell someone something honest that they don't want to hear, and that's why it's uncomfortable. But really being honest with people and being what I call steadfast, you know, stay true, hold fast, like those principles that you think about. It's being on time. It's everything, right? There's all these little things that you can do, and that establishes who you are, whether you do them consciously or subconsciously, and that allows you to have, you know, integrity and honest conversations, right? And, you know, talk about the facts and what's real. Alejandro will tell you when you lead young men and women that you get, you know, assigned when you're a very, you know, very young man. 22, I was an ensign. Alejandro was a second lieutenant. Those are, by the way, the same thing. And same rank, in different armed forces in the services. But you get situations that you're not going to get as a regular person, coming out into the real world. So life and death sometimes, circumstances, personal, professional, all kinds of stuff. And that makes you different. And I think your teammates realize that and they look up to you in a different way because of that.
Alejandro, if you could say anything to the guys at Army before they take the field, or if you had any message for guys getting ready to play in this game, that something that you gleaned during your time playing in this rivalry, what would it be?
I was not somebody that that believe in halftime speeches or that believe in speeches to motivate yourself. I always liked football because it's a great way to compete where you can hit somebody. You can physically impose your will. You can it's like boxing. It's almost like a combat sport that you have to do with your teammates. So um, football is, especially the Army Navy game, is sometimes the last game that a lot of these kids are going to play. So the culture of football in America, what I've experienced, that you start at a very early age. Your dad is trying to live his dreams through you, and then somehow you end up becoming successful in high school, and then you can continue to play. But at some point, whether it's college or professional, the game of football ends. And so sometimes you have to put things in perspective and say, this could be my last game of football. You could get injured and you cannot play again. This could be, you have to almost live the game of football like it's your last day. And so any chance that you get football, you can't really play out at the beach with your buddies. You're not going to put pads and shoulder pads and whatnot. When you play football, it has to be organized. It has to mean something. It's playing for somebody. Somebody's paying so that you can play football. So I always encourage everybody to approach the game of football like they're gonna have no regrets. Sometimes you feel a little bit, that you're gonna mess up and then you're gonna let people down, especially in college. There's a lot of things. The mental state of each player before going to a game varies tremendously. So for me, it's just playing with no regrets. Could be your last time dressing up in a uniform to play the game of football. It's a very beautiful environment to do it at Army Navy. Feel very privileged, feel very thankful, and enjoy the moment because, like I said, it just doesn't last forever.
Ensign Kuberski, Captain Villanueva, man. It's a privilege to share this time with you guys. I can't thank you enough for all you've done for America and just like taking time to hang with us today. Where are you guys going to be watching the game? Will you be in Baltimore for it?
No, I'll be in my couch.
How about you, Bob?
I'll be in section 232. I've made every Army Navy game since I retired. And to be again around my teammates, we'll be together tomorrow night. We'll be on the bus on Saturday. We have a lot, the club level, where we enjoy because we're getting older and we like to go get warm, but we'll be there with my family and closest friends. And someday, Alejandro, we'll have to get you, next year it's at MetLife Stadium. I'd love to meet you in person sometime. We got to connect for sure. But
it's just tough when in Florida, when you get the weather in Florida that we get right now. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, what's the weather going to be like up there?
Not warm.
Hey, you guys, thank you so much. I mean, I really, really appreciate it. You guys mean a lot. And, I was never good enough to play at either service academy. So thank you very much for being an extension of my dreams today. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you very much. Take care, gentlemen. Army Navy coming up this Saturday. The Commander-in-Chief Trophy at stake. Wow, that was very cool. Way to go, Chris Visser. Thank you so much for putting that together. Alejandro Villanueva and Bob Kuberski. Just what a privilege. What a privilege. Army Navy is unbelievable. Truth, that's very, very true. As a football nut growing up as a kid, I was always around the TV trying to find the next football game. And, on this weekend, there were no other games, which I thought was such a perfect position to be put in, where you had the opportunity to witness the Army Navy game and everything that came with us. And at that point, I was like, man, I really wanted to go to Navy because the guy, Andy Person, who grew up around where I grew up, went and he started at Navy as a defensive end. He was really good. Andy's the best. They'll keep in touch with him today. And if he'd played in the NFL, maybe he would have taken Bob Kaversky's spot, but he didn't, and Bob did. So, all right, we'll step aside and come back. We're presented by Slovakics. We've got some NFL picks coming up and a little bit more on the Sherrone Moore situation. But, yeah, we'll be right back.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB, your bank for life, takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
What if you could clean clean? With bio-based formulas and deep cleaning enzymes. No dyes, phthalates, or mystery ingredients. Just powerful pods for your dishes and laundry. Now you can, with drops. Made clean, made to clean.
Welcome to Kit Bag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, for true football passion, think Kit Bag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's KITBAG.com, Kit Bag.
It's the Restore Clarity Focus Patch, my little secret weapon for staying sharp, focused, and on task. Each box comes with simple instructions inside, so you always know exactly how to apply it. Each patch lasts for 3 days. I love that I can wear it all day.
Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite. At Toussaint's, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Visit Toussaint's.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.
A house is a property, but we live in homes. Home sweet home. Homes where the heart is. We aim to deliver the best home buying and selling experience so you can spend less time real estating and more time living.
Unlock a world of convenience with Mullybox, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. Each box is tailored to your taste. Mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com.
Better sleep, inspired by nature. Your back, hips, and shoulders will fall into perfect alignment in any position, meaning that you get deeper, more comfortable rest. Visit ecoterrabeds.com.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Welcome to Market XLS, your all-in-one Excel solution for investors. Designed as an enterprise-grade platform, Market XLS caters to investment managers, secure and efficient investment management and research. Book your free demo.
Everybody at Ecolife really has a passion and a real interest in helping people feel well. How much further can we go to get you feeling even better? It is a complete partnership between the two of us.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SOUSA to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SOUSA. That's SOUSA. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play-and-get-terms_DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
Well, Pete, you weren't here yesterday when I revealed my football picks for underdog this weekend. And by the way, when Kevin Hall gets here in just a second, folks are going to learn real quick. They should probably go with my advice on these matters rather than yours. But here are my picks for underdog this weekend. And I will say this took me a little longer because I really enjoy doing college football. And I don't know anything about Army or Navy's teams this year, unfortunately, other than Brian Newberry is the head coach at Navy. And so I made some NFL picks here, and it's all
Alejandro Villanueva and Bob Kaburski on.
and they were phenomenal. But I made my underdog picks yesterday, Pete. Relax. And so it's all about touchdowns this week on my underdog picks. Here they are. George Pickens, baby, bounce back week. Give him a tutty. Javonte Williams, as well as the Cowboys, take on the struggling Minnesota Vikings. And then King Henry, man, Baltimore needs to win these football games down the stretch to get in the playoffs. One of the most disappointing teams in football this year. Give me King Henry with a tutty against the Cincinnati Bengals. If you want to play along, make sure you use that promo code Sousa, and you can get $50 of bonus cash along with your $5 deposit. Pete, I think Kevin is ready to join us.
What Mosley talks about the Cowboys. He always says like the Cowboys. He has a certain way he says the Cowboys. I just love it, dude.
You ready to? Kevin
talking about the Cowboys for like since he's 8 years old. All the time, the Cowboys, the Cowboys, the Cowboys, the Cowboys. Like seriously, think about that. He's been talking about the Cowboys for a living. Yeah, pretty much.
What a gift, honestly. Let's bring in Kevin Hall. He's on the road, a special.
Mickey Mouse. What happened?
Look at the guy. Dude? Look at those shades. Turn on your microphone, Kevin. You're muted.
You're muted, Kevin.
Kevin, turn on your microphone.
It is better this way.
There we go. I'm about to head into the Grinchmas show, but I wanted to stop and get some picks with you guys.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. We're ready to rock and roll. Come on.
Let's not rock and roll yet. Let's talk about our records after last week.
Screw you, Scotty.
You want to talk about last week?
Quickly.
Okay, last week. Remember, y'all picked entirely different except for one game.
Yeah.
Okay? Pete, you picked the Bengals, but the Bills won, and Scotty picked that. And Pete, you picked the Ravens, but the Steelers won, and Scotty got that. And Pete, you picked the Bears, but the Packers won, and Scotty picked that. Then y'all both picked the Eagles, but the Chargers did crazy things. And then you, Pete, you went with my Colts, and the Jaguars did what they did in Duval. So
and he picked Kansas City, and Jalen Petrie showed up for the Houston Texans, baby.
Yep. So what's the records now? Yeah, it's not looking good, Pete. Woo! Pete, you are the only one. You're the only one of the four of us between Liam and I that are sub 500.
All right. Forget you and Liam. Let's go. All right, let's do this.
And I do remember at the beginning of this, Pete was the one that was like, "Oh, this is going to be cake, right?"
Yeah, without the point spreads, it'll be easy. That's what I said. That's
famous last word.
A very cold take, right?
Famous last word.
Freezing cold take.
Okay, for this week's picks, you ready?
Yeah, of course.
All right, we're going to start with tonight's game. We got the Falcons at the Buccaneers, both going vintage with the red helmet and the creamsicles.
Nice job.
What do you think? What you got?
I'm starting. I got Tampa.
All right, Bucks. Scotty?
I'll take the Bucks as well.
Love it. All right, the next one. We got the Ravens at the Bengals. Someone has to win the AFC North here.
Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, give me the Ravens. I just said King Henry's going to score. That's my underdog. One of my underdog picks. I think Ravens just a better team at this point.
Bengals. Let's go. Time to make up some ground.
You do need to make up some ground. That's for sure. All right. Then we got Chargers at the Chiefs. This is crazy. Like this division, who knows what's going to happen? The Chiefs look like they're on the ropes, but then the Chargers look like they can still do it, even with Herbert with a broken hand. Pete, what do you got?
I liked how prickly Herbert was after the game with Thor Rutledge. So I feel like he's got an edge that won't be denied. So I'm going with the Chargers.
All right.
Southern
Scotty.
California edge don't mean jack squat.
Alrighty, here we go. Then we got the Lions at the Rams, the annual revisit of the Cabo trip and the hot tub trade.
All right, go ahead.
Scotty.
This is the hardest one to pick. I like both these teams a lot, but give me the Rams at home. Matt Stafford's got to stay ahead or try to catch up. I mean, he's less than 200 yards away from passing the Colts quarterback, Phillip Rivers, in career passing yardage. Stafford's got to stay hot. Give me the Rams.
I would like to take the Lions because I want to beat Scotty. So there you go.
Oh, man. Pete's going for it.
Especially when it's a toss-up like that, yeah.
There's only one way to win, and that's to go for it. Then we got Packers at the Broncos, sneaky Super Bowl matchup. This is Scotty's Super Bowl matchup from preseason, right?
Nice job, Scotty.
It is my preseason Super Bowl
All
matchup.
right. Pete, who you got?
Green Bay.
Packers, Scotty.
That's perfect. I was going to pick Denver, baby. Let's go. Sean Payton and Bo Nix. They're going to win the Super Bowl over the Packers in a couple months. Let's go.
Oh, man, that is crazy. All right, ready for the extra point here?
Yes.
You did skip, Kevin. You're on the road, so there's grace for you. But I want to pick this one because it's a fascinating matchup to me. Buffalo at New England.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is going to be a good one. Is there a changing of the guard in the AFC East?
Yes, there is. I'm taking New England.
I'm taking Buffalo.
I love it. I love it. This is great.
I think Buffalo's favored anyways. That's a good pick for me. Go ahead.
All right, now the extra point. It's my Colts at the Seahawks.
Dude, we got to pick the Cowboys. We got to pick the Cowboys game.
It's not in the rotation.
All right, let's go. Go ahead. Here's your team. Go ahead.
Okay, Colts at the Seahawks. Grandpa Rivers going for it. He knows the offense. I have no worries with the head. It's more the gut that I have a problem with. The arm is fine. The head is fine. I'm not sure about the weight and what he can do, but like he said in his press conference, he's never been mobile. For 16, 17 years, he wasn't running from anybody. So it's not going to be any different. And is Seattle really that good? I know they're probably that good at home, but really, are they that as good as their record? And will we see? Scotty, start us off.
Best running back in the NFL versus the best wide receiver in the NFL. Give me Jackson Smith and Jigba to have a big day. I told you I'm never picking the Colts again this season, and I meant it. Seattle.
All right. Pete?
The Colts have they've screwed me every time. Seattle. I got to go with Seattle.
I completely understand your sentiment in the Colts.
Are the Colts going to make the playoffs, Kev?
What's that?
Are the Colts going to make the playoffs? Like, what's going on here?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea at this point. I don't know if Rivers or Riley Leonard are the best option at this point. I have no idea. They grew up right next to each. Like Riley grew up right next to Phillip Rivers, and Shane Steichen has a history with Rivers. So I feel good about the glue between the coach and the two quarterbacks left. But I don't have any clue because, I mean, you got two division games still against the two top people in the division, and you have at Seattle and then the Niners at home. Liam and I were talking about it last night, and we think that they have to win 3 out of 4 then they could probably win the two NFC West games, but they have to beat both the Jaguars at home and Houston on the road in order to have a chance. But at the same time, it's looking like there may be 3 AFC South teams in the playoffs. And since when did we ever expect that?
Come on, Carly. I hope she makes a run. All right, Kevin Hall.
I got to go.
Slap Goofy in the face for Scotty, all right?
All right.
And Goofy, he's just asking for it sometimes, isn't he? See you, brother.
Thanks, Kevin.
He is asking for it, that Goofy, isn't he? All right, let's take one last break, and we'll come back and wrap it up with some more on the Sherrone Moore situation. Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovakics.
With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Designed to elevate the off-road experience, enabling adventurers to conquer any terrain. For 50 years, you've trusted us on your toughest recoveries, to your most breathtaking destinations, and in countless unforgettable memories.
We offer fast shipping, exceptional customer support, and furniture solutions that stand up to high-traffic environment. Elevate your space with BizChair's vast selection of stylish, reliable, and cost-effective furniture. Visit us today at bizchair.com to transform your business.
But boy, it looked effortless.
Man, watch this.
Layups, floaters, threes. He was like an unsolvable equation.
I was born like this.
His resilience, his strength, his belief, adversity never stood a chance.
Know your power.
VivoSun's mission is to empower growers with stylish and effective products, making indoor growing accessible and enjoyable for everyone. Visit vivosun.com today and get started making growing plants and vegetables easy and automatic.
WhyPersonalLoans.com. Request a loan anytime. Our partners can offer loans up to $35,000 with varying rates and terms. Review your loan offer with no obligation and decide what works for you. Visit personalloans.com today.
So all you have to do is tap your Popple to the back of someone's phone, like that, and they instantly get your social media and contact info right on their screen. They don't need an app or a Popple to receive your info. So get your Popple today and start impressing everyone you meet. Make it pop.
Is your Mac running slow? Mac Booster 8 is your all-in-one solution to clean up 20 types of junk files. Get your Mac running like new again with Mac Booster 8. Visit macboost.net today.
It's the Pete Sousa Show.
Pete Sousa Show. I like how that piano guy played me in. So here's the deal on the Sherrone Moore. Nothing new that I can see right now that has broken over the last hour and 20 minutes we've been on the air. I can say, Adam Schefter did go on the air about 30 minutes ago, I'm reading. And he feels like, Schefter's a Michigan grad. So, he's got tentacles all over that or into that situation. But we haven't heard from Sherrone Moore at all. And so that is something you got to consider. And he did feel as though, and this is according to Schefter, Sherrone Moore felt as though people at Michigan had it in for him for a long time. So, look, I can tell you, and this is just my silly thinking, but I've watched way too many Netflix original television shows, but boy, wouldn't this be the perfect setup for somebody? You know what I mean? Obviously that is out of control, wild swing, but I don't know. We've heard about this stuff. If you want somebody to take a fall or whatever, I'll be interested to see what Sherrone Moore has to say about this situation. But my heart breaks for his family. My heart really breaks for the young girl, not any more than his family. It really breaks for both of them. But, she made it looks like she made a stupid decision. She's just been thrust into a situation that nobody deserves to be in. Again, Sherrone Moore is held to a higher standard because of the job he has. It's you're the steward for a bunch of young men, and you just, and also you can't, someone who works for you, to have a relationship with them, is just no good. It's not. And, so that situation is just sad. I think the one thing that, even like I mentioned earlier, makes me a little more frustrated, is, the fact that coaches we're talking about, look, let's just do this one thing before, because I want to talk about Baylor's new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. It's to coaches' odds to replace Joe Biden. I spelled coaches wrong. That's why. I mean, I'm not trying to replace Joe Biden. Okay. Let's see. So let's see these odds right here. So first of all, this is annoying, by the way. Dan Patrick, who I'm just gonna, I think I might just die on this hill now, because I was watching back when I talked about Dan Patrick tossing softballs to Pete Vivacqua, Notre Dame's AD, and I said that I think that had a lot to do with Dan's relationship with Notre Dame through his relationship with NBC. Okay, that happened. Maybe you let it slide. Today, Patrick, who is one of the best to ever do it, I need to say that, he's now on there throwing out Brian Kelly's name. Throwing Brian Kelly's name around, because you know that's his buddy from when Kelly was coaching at Notre Dame. And I'm just like, come on, bro. And then he's like, he's really trying to crowbar it in. And when he's talking to this guy, the reporter who came onto his show from a local outlet there in Ann Arbor, Detroit, Tony Garcia, he brought up Brian Kelly again. And the guy, Garcia, just shut it down. He was like, yeah, he's actually on like the do not touch list, I think, for this school. And he did say, maybe this is going to be like a freezing cold take, Dan. He's like, but there's no way it's Brian Kelly. But I'm kind of like, all right, Dan, I see you, dude. And then let's talk about who may take the job. These are the odds right now, which we know, by the way, these coaching odds are complete rubbish. It's not like it's much of this stuff, if any of it is sourced up. It's really like how, the lines are out there. People can bet one way or another. And then that can switch everything, right? Or the odds are out there. But let's go through them. Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. Joe Brady is the guy who brought the spread to LSU in 2019. And that team went 15-0. And the moment after, Ed Orgeron was pissed, but he left to go to the NFL to work at the Carolina Panthers right after they won. And Orgeron felt betrayed, because he really did pluck this dude, Joe Brady, almost out of obscurity, and brought him onto the LSU staff, let him call the plays, and institute this offense, and then he took off. But he's the OC at Buffalo. He's plus 300. This one's interesting, and if it gains traction, we'll really find out just how committed to Arizona State Kenny Dillingham is, because Dillingham is on this list at plus 400. Jesse Minter, someone who I don't know much about at all. I guess he was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. He's the Chargers defensive coordinator. Kalen DeBoer is at plus 500. Jed Fish plus 700. And you got Lincoln Riley, PJ Fleck, Dan Mullen. That's interesting. Marcus Freeman, and then Brian Kelly is an extreme long shot. Scotty, anybody on that list that you would think would be a good fit there?
Yeah, a couple. I actually think, and his name has been brought to my attention when we were talking about Baylor potentially looking for a coach. I think Dan Mullen gets a bit of an unfair bad rap. He has been outstanding at UNLV.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a horrible name to look at. And then here's the one that Big 12 fans should put a flag on. Dillingham might mean Sam Leavitt as well. I know they really like Bryce Underwood, but like, man, if you could get Dillingham and Sam Leavitt in a quick deal, that Dillingham would be arguably the second or third best hire of this carousel if they could talk him into being at Michigan, right? The only bigger one maybe being Lane Kiffin at LSU.
I don't know
or
if
James
Dillingham,
Franklin at Virginia Tech. So
here's my one thing about Dillingham, and I'm curious to see what you think about this. I don't know that his superpowers apply to a school like Michigan.
I don't know either.
That's why
know.
I think he's so special at the state.
Listen, you and I agree on that, and I want to see him at Arizona State for a long time. And he's obviously like hand in glove fit. But it's kind of like when Scott Drew flirted with Indiana and then really got close to going to Kentucky. He ended up staying at Baylor. But Baylor fans in both cases were like, it's Indiana. It's Kentucky. Like if he leaves after 20 years at Baylor for Kentucky, good for him. Like it's Kentucky. Michigan is one of those 5 or 6 college football jobs, isn't it? Like if you have to name the 5 or 6,
definitely.
It's
yes.
Notre Dame, it's LSU, it's Alabama, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a single coach in America who wouldn't think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a crappy situation, but
it is.
Speaking of Coach Drew, by the way, he broke my balls yesterday. I filled in on the radio for JMO, and at the post-game interview, I was like, Coach, like, you guys came out at halftime like gangbusters, like it was really impressive to see you guys start the second half the way you did. And I said, where did that come from? He goes, well, I think it came from our start in the game. And then he talked about how well they played early on, and he tapped me on the knee and he goes, but thanks for noticing. I was like, all right, dude.
He's gotten more like that as he's been here. Like he does that just about we have him on the Mosley show right now about every 2 weeks. And he's always like throwing it some shade here and they're like funny like that. Not like serious,
he's a rascal. I love it.
He's funny, man. He likes to mess with interviewers.
Truth be told, I have had a slow burn with him for probably the last 4 years since I started calling games for ESPN. And like that to me, I think he was like, that was my initial, like, okay,
you're a buddy now.
You're kind of,
you're in the circle.
Yeah.
I love it.
Knowing coaches and stuff like I know him. Yeah. I was like, okay. Cause I was a little bit like, afterwards I got, you even get insecure. I'm like, God damn it. I'm such an idiot. Why did I ask? I'm like in my head, like, I love it. So stupid. All right. Speaking of Baylor, Liz, you going? All right. See you later. Liz is taking off. She was a busy beaver over here working away. Now she's leaving, going out into the streets. Scotty, what do we think about Joe Klanderman? Give me a rating out of 5 stars. What do you give this?
3.5.
Okay.
3.5. It's a surprisingly good hire for where Baylor is. And let's just be really honest about this. This coming season for Dave Aranda is going to kind of be treated like an interim season. Like he is auditioning for a job next year. The writing's on the wall. I don't think I'm breaking any news or surprising anybody. So to get a guy that's coached 3 top 15 defenses in the last 4 years, to come to Baylor for potentially just a season to try to make it work, very impressive for Coach Aranda, for Doug McNamee. This is a really good hire. I know I reported the joke on your show is going to become when Scotty fills in and drops Baylor coaching news, the opposite is about to happen because this is the second time this has happened. Maurice Linguist at Alabama was a real candidate for this role. He's a Baylor defensive back. He is the co-defensive coordinator at Alabama. My perspective on him not taking this job might be he doesn't want an interim job at Baylor. He might want a long-term role at Baylor as a Baylor alum. And with that, so I know there's a few Baylor fans like, we didn't get the Alabama guy, the Baylor player. It's like, that's okay. Like, that's okay. This guy is great. And I certainly think we're going to see some quick improvement on the field with him in the building.
He's super cool too. Like
the
media here's going to like him. I had a chance to talk with him because I had Kansas State Baylor this year. He's just like he kind of gives Mike Vrabel vibes.
I love that.
This is a guy who will be a head coach at some point.
Love that.
I believe that.
I told you this on a break. Joe Tillery, who hosts his own Kansas State Insiders podcast. Joe's great. If you're a Kansas State fan, check out Joe Tillery. He just DM'd me a few minutes ago, unprompted. I didn't reach out to him. He DM'd me without me asking him anything and said, Baylor got it right. This is a great hire. He will do well in Waco. So for a Kansas State guy that's been really close to that team to just reach out unprompted to me to say that, I believe him. Like, I think this is 3.5, 4 stars out of 5.
I would even say, I'd say 3.5. That's good. That's measured, right? We don't want to be too like hyperbolic, but I do want to say, so I've been down like a Coach O rabbit hole because he's with the boys. It's so much fun. I listened to him. By the way, I did not know, and his behavior does not. He's 26 years sober, and is an AA guy. Which is, by the way, we're not really supposed to say that. Like, there's like you want to at the level of press, radio, and film. Like, there's traditions. Like, you don't want to be like, I go to AA because then. If you end up getting drunk, people will be like, well, AA doesn't work. So you're supposed to kind of keep it below the radar. But now more people are more and more. So Coach O was talking about that, which I thought was really cool. I got to get him, try to get him on the sober payoff, sober pot. I'm trying to get working on Marinovich too. That will be a lot of fun because I just love having athletes come on. But
do you think there's any chance he joins Kiffin's staff?
No, because he said it to those guys. Basically, he was like, he was open to it. He talked with Lane. He said Lane didn't call him. And he said he totally understands because, Coach O going to Baton Rouge, there's just a lot there.
It's a lot of baggage. Not like good baggage. Not like.
Well, there's some bad baggage.
I know there's bad baggage too, but as soon as the head coach starts to falter, if he's on staff, the fans are like, well, we have a national championship coach on staff. What are we doing? I understand it.
So one of the guys that works on the Bussin' with the Boys show, at the very end of the pod, they were like, hey, does anybody have anything for Coach O? One of the kids on the show who's a producer or something went to Baylor. So he said, hey, I'm a Baylor grad. What do you think about Dave Aranda and what's going on there at Baylor? Like, what would you, what do you think? And he was really good. He said,
I need to go listen to that.
He just said, it was a quick 20, 30 seconds, but he just said he doesn't have the players and coaches he needs to be successful. He said, and I don't know that he's ever had it. He said maybe for a minute or two, but he hasn't had it. Look, now here's what I'll say. What's your definition of players to be successful? Because last night, diving into my deep rabbit hole, I watched the 2019 championship game, Clemson and LSU. When I tell you, Dave Aranda, and this is Mac Rhodes should have watched this before he hired Dave Aranda. I mean, the defense he had playing for him at LSU, all you saw was yellow and purple everywhere.
Yeah.
Like those guys were amazing. If you were to watch 2 or 3 snaps of just that defense, right? Like an end zone copy or maybe an all 22, right? Of the way that defense at LSU moved around and then put a carbon copy up to a Baylor defense after the snap and the way they moved around. I mean, it's like different sports, dude. That's how elite.
Yeah, and I understand NIL is a factor.
Yeah.
But when you're the head coach of a football program, if you don't have the personnel,
it's on you.
That's your fault.
It is.
Right.
100%. So it's on him. But here's where the Klanderman, let me go into the Klanderman hire.
Yeah.
Awesome. You hit it for me. What was the number about the defenses? Top defenses?
They were ranked
43rd
this year, but prior to that, I think he had 3 seasons in a row where they were like top 15, top 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because out of the Big 12 too. So you're talking about a guy who can manage a certain type of athlete you're going to get in the Big 12.
Correct. Yeah. Kansas State doesn't have.
He's not coming from Alabama.
6 NFL players starting on their defense.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and I like that. And I think that the thing about Dave, that the struggle for him on defense has been how different the athlete, and I'm not knocking Baylor because I'm talking about these guys they were 15-0, maybe the best college football team of all time. That's how good these guys were.
Yeah.
Like offense and defense, but it's pretty hard to recapture that at Baylor, to have the deck stacked like that. So now all of a sudden, because this year, let's face it, man, he looked beyond pedestrian as a defensive coordinator.
Baylor was ranked in the 120s in most statistics.
I don't know what was happening, but
it was bad.
Get the hell out of the way. And that's what I think he knows himself. He's like, I'm not. So Klanderman will be the DC. I don't know what that means, at the end of the day, bottom line wins and losses, but it sure is a hell of a lot better than the existing situation as of yesterday, or maybe now until this is made official. But I think this is great news for Baylor.
It is.
I really do.
It is. And for the cynics who are so mad, and there's so many of them, they comment every time I go live now, every time Matt Mosley's live, I'm Aranda. Listen, what Doug McNamee is doing, and this hire signifies it too, is removing every excuse. So there's a clear path next season, if Baylor still isn't winning, to let him go. He's going to get the money right. I believe it. I believe with McNamee's business acumen, the money's going to be better than it was last offseason. And Dave's going to be able to get whoever he wants in the portal to an extent, right, to fill out the personnel. He's got.
You think so? Hold on. You think so? You think he'll have all the resources he needs?
I think McNamee's already doing the work, man. I think he's already doing the work to get the money.
I'd have to do my job and ask a follow-up.
I think he's gonna get the money. Not that Baylor's gonna be like top 10 in the country in NIL, but I would assume more money than last offseason.
Okay.
To get the personnel. And now you've taken defensive play calling away from Dave Aranda, and you've gotten a proven, at worst mediocre, and more often than not, way above average DC to coach and call plays here. Dave Aranda's job is to coach the entire organization to wins.
And what about David? Spavital. He's still all good to go. Like, we feel good about him, or is he going to leave?
He's been interviewing this week. I think he is.
What are you hearing?
I think he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think.
Where's he been interviewing?
Well, TCU for starters. I think, and I don't know that he got an interview. I know there was.
That makes perfect sense.
I know there's been discussions between him and TCU, right? I think, and I said this actually as soon as the season ended. It's why Powledge left too, by the way. When the writing's on a wall that a coach is going to get fired, you usually don't want to go down with the ship.
So you think Spavital will get fired, huh?
I think the whole staff's going to get let go this fall. Yeah.
You mean this spring or winter?
This next fall. Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying after? So you think Spav is good going into this season?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay.
But when you see the ship going down, generally it's wise to try to attach yourself to another ship. And the first guy to do it was Sean Bell after 2023. And it's working out very well for him, by the way. So
some home cooking right there.
It is.
That's your boy.
That is my boy. and he will be an OC in the next couple of seasons, I think. So it's working well.
You did a hell of a job this year. I mean, hey, nice for Houston. Connor
Wegman. Nobody else has made Connor Wegman work.
Nope. And so good on
they
him.
just signed the number 1 player in America, Kyshawn Henderson.
Yeah.
So it's working. Anyway, that's a sidebar.
Yeah.
If Spav were to jump and attach himself to another ship, it wouldn't surprise me. But he might be here. We'll see. It will be interesting to see what Baylor does, and we should know by next week, if Spav leaves. It'll be interesting to see what Baylor does.
What are you hearing? You think he's going to leave?
I think it's 50-50. He's never stayed one place very long.
How big of a win is it if he stays?
Huge.
Okay.
Well, huge because you don't have to then try to find
who's playing quarterback next year.
Now that's the question, isn't it?
What are you hearing about that?
Well, here's what we know. Walker White has been disappointing.
The Auburn transfer.
Correct. He didn't even get on the field in garbage time this year. Nate Bennett did. And Walker White was a 4-star recruit. He's a wildly gifted athlete that can run the football, but has been a disappointment throwing the ball in practice. That's why he didn't touch the field last year. That's a bad sign, by the way. The fact that Auburn let him leave and Jackson Arnold essentially replaced him, and then Jackson Arnold got benched by the end of the season, not a good sign with Walker White. Nate Bennett is a good backup quarterback at this level. I don't think most people believe he is a high ceiling starter in the Big 12.
See, now this is where I love the portal. Let's go shopping.
It is.
What are we going to get?
So here are the options. Before we go shopping, here are the options. Aranda, since last spring, I think has loved Ed Griffin more than both of those guys. The guy that just finished his redshirt freshman year, where he played Coppell, I think, high school.
I don't know.
Excellent Texas high school quarterback, broke a lot of records, threw a lot of touchdowns and not a lot of interceptions. Talented kid. Needs to be developed. Spav is really good at developing quarterbacks, though. So Ed Griffin could very likely be the starter for Baylor next
What
year.
about our boy?
The other option is Quinn Murphy.
Come on, Quinn.
Now, most people assume correctly that most 3-star high school quarterbacks can't, and Quinn should be a 4-star, but he's a 3-star. Most 3-star high school quarterbacks can't immediately start in the Big 12 that fall. Most people assume that. If Quinn Murphy is starting for Baylor next year, it is probably more of an indictment on the room than it is a credit to Murphy. But Murphy is going to be the highest upside guy in the room as soon as he gets to campus. His upside is crazy. I mean, he's got every physical tool, everything between the ears. He will be Baylor's starter in the future.
Why is he a 3-star if he's got all those tools you're telling me?
Because there was one, the lead guy at 24/7 Sports didn't like him. Because he lives in Houston, and Quinn ditched a Houston school to go play for Jason Witten for 2 years.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's petty. It's what happens. That's why stars are stupid. But yeah, who will Baylor chase a quarterback in the portal? Yes.
Okay.
Who? I have no idea. I haven't gotten that far into who they might be targeting. We'll probably hear next week. I have Colt Barber right now. I don't know.
I think, God, who was it? Stephon Diggs? No. One of the wide receivers at LSU that was amazing. Jamar Chase, and who was the other guy? Come on, he's awesome.
He's also killing it in the NFL.
Yeah. Anyways, he was a 2-star.
Malik Neighbors,
not Malik Neighbors. No. Who was? Let's see.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. Yeah, was a 2-star, dude. Come on. I mean,
That's what. Yeah.
yeah. All right, that's it. We'll be back tomorrow. We're presented by Slovacics. Thank you to Scotty Swingler. Thank you to Chris Visser. Thank you to you guys for watching, man. And what a treat to have Captain Alejandro Villanueva and Ensign Bob Kaburski with us today to preview Army Navy. That gave me goosebumps, and thank you to them for their service and for spending some time with us today. We will see you tomorrow. We're presented by Slovacics. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.